Zoey's extraordinary playlist is an emotional roller coaster where Zoey, played by Jane Levy, encounters people in her life singing and dancing their intimate feelings. I'm Rob LaCouria, senior editor at Gold Derby. I'm here with co-star Alex Newell, who plays Mo. Alex, what people love about the show, and I've said this to so many people that I've spoken to about it, is that it wears its heart on its sleeve. It's really great to watch something that is just unapologetically earnest, emotional, empathetic and honest. What do you think about how the show does that?
I think it comes from such an authentic place from the actor standpoint. Everything that we do with our whole heart, souls, and mind, and we're so connected as a whole, and trying to put Austin's work in the world in the best way possible.
Yeah, and these days in pop culture, things are always slightly insincere, or they're ironic or sarcastic or sassy. This show just wants to be sincere and heartfelt and really just let us feel, and we certainly did that, especially towards the end of the season when obviously Mitch passes away. What were your thoughts on a show that just tries to go for that emotion and actually sticks the landing?
It's different. It's very different for a show to stick the landing, as you say. The show itself is something that we're not trying to pretend that this power is not crazy, because it is crazy, and we're suspending disbelief. But at the same time, why we're suspending this disbelief is to get to the root of who a human is and what a human is and how that person is, and kind of getting back to communication. I feel like as a society, as a creed, we don't really ask how you're doing anymore. And I think Zoey having this power and hearing a heart song and having to ask the person how they're doing, that's really starting a conversation, what we're not doing. And I think people relate to that, and they need that in their lives right now.
That's actually a really good point, because whenever I'm watching a show, I think that empathy is actually so critical right now, and it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily have, which is probably one of the main problems we have. We all have internal lives, we all have problems and things that we're scared about, but we don't share them enough. We don't understand or be in someone else's shoes. This show does that. Did you find that when you were making the show that started to occur to you more, that maybe could be the base of all of our problems at the moment?
Yeah, when we're filming, we're getting scripts as not like we get there and there's just all the scripts, seasons written. We're having the conversations, we're talking to the writers, we're doing all these things and talking to each other and kind of figuring out and understanding really what we're doing and why this power is there, and getting to that root of empathy and having conversations and kind of wearing our hearts on our sleeves. We're literally bleeding for our art right on this show.
Yeah, you definitely are. And the power of music is really apparent on the show. Your background is quite musical, and you're a singer as well, and an artist in music. Did that attract you mostly when you signed on to the show, that you had the opportunity to kind of combine those two worlds?
Yeah, having the background of being on Glee and being a recording artist and having this rabid love for music, that's kind of where I connected with Mo, the character, at the beginning. It was this effervescent love, this confidence of music, and having to know all types of music, and just knowing my background. I was going to go to Berklee School of Music. That was my college that I was going to if I didn't go to Glee. And to know that music, there's a line in the pilot about how music can convey things that you just can't say. Sometimes a good song can make you feel things you didn't know were there. And I hold that so true to my heart, because sometimes I don't have the words, I don't have the wherewithal to think of something to say out loud, but I'll listen to a song and it all becomes crystal clear.
Yeah, that's the universality, I guess, if that's even a word, of music. There's nothing quite like it, and this show really seems to punctuate that. I was going to ask you as well about diversity in casting, because everyone seems to want to talk about that these days, because we've come a long way, I should say, in diversity. On your show, there's a beautiful cross-section of people in the cast. Mo was described as gender fluid and non-binary. It's not a character that we see on TV very often. What are your thoughts about that?
I always want to see someone like me, younger than me, have someone they can look up to. And I think that it starts with taking a risk. Growing up, I didn't see anybody that looked like me on television, that had my mindset, that walked my walk of life. And it's so refreshing that TV is now starting to accept and understand that it's something that's not going away, and more people are living lives this way, and they are people that need to be represented. They're people that need to be seen. Their stories are stories that we don't have, and we need to tell those stories. It's really refreshing for me to kind of play myself, but not really at the same time, to kind of go into work and be blessed with the fact that someone took the risk to tell my story.
Yeah, I know you touch on this in a lot of interviews that you do, but I think it's really important to get your views on young people watching someone like yourself on television who may not feel they can live authentically without being judged, or fearing that they're going to be judged, and then seeing someone like yourself who is so unapologetic about who you are. I think it's so wonderful. I have kids of my own, and I hope they have that kind of bravery to just be themselves. And I'm wondering, how important is that for you as a role model? Did you ever want to be a role model? Because it's a lot of pressure.
I don't think anybody wants to be a role model. I think you kind of have enough listening to dejection and listening to people put you down or make you a trope or make you something that you're not. And you just kind of live for you, because people are either going to like you or they're not. And you can't change someone's opinion on you too much, but you can educate them on why their thought is invalid about you. I think for me, it was always, I just love me, and I've had such a supportive mother, friend group, family that has just kind of lifted me up. And if I feel that I'm disrespecting them in any kind of way, I ask them, and they say, no, keep going faster, further, and do whatever makes you happy. You can only live for yourself. And I keep that in the back of my mind. I also keep, you have one life to live, and why try to be somebody else when everybody else is simply taken? Just be yourself.
Yeah. And of course, gender fluidity and sexuality is not the only thing that defines a person, but it's of course something that people want to talk about. Do you find that people still have a lot of questions to you about that aspect of your life? And if they do you find it frustrating? Do you like talking about it? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
What it really boils down to is, people are always like, what are your pronouns? And I'm just like, get to know me first, and then we can go to pronouns later, or whatever you feel comfortable with calling me. I'm perfectly fine. I don't get upset. I feel that it's my purpose and my time to educate people on it all. And kind of, if someone has a preference, we have to respect that preference, because that's for them. And yeah, it's kind of like a respect thing. I'm never offended by it. It just really is a conversation starter where I can ask them the question, why do you feel this? What did I do that made you feel this way? There's no wrong answer.
Wow, that's so interesting. Looking back at season 1, there's a lot of highlights. You've obviously got a really beautiful, strong voice. It's something that we saw on Glee, and now we're seeing again. Was there any particular musical number that you look back on as your highlight, something that you were really, really proud of vocally?
Oh my goodness. I sang so much. In the pilot, I sang 5 songs. I always say the first one that I sang, Lean on Me. It wasn't really a heart song. That was a live performance, so I guess I shouldn't say that. My first heart song that I related to the most was probably The Trouble with Love Is. I did that in one of the later episodes, I want to say 9 or 10. And it was a song that I did live, and I've sung live on television, but I've never been in a series and sung live in that. Very proud of how it sounded at the end and the emotion behind it. I started off singing live in church and theater, and so singing live is home, and the emotion always comes across even better when you're singing live, because you're not having to recreate what you did in the studio. But that one's gorgeous. And the lyrics themselves, Kelly Clarkson wrote that song, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping you'd say that one too. That was definitely a highlight. Were you ever apprehensive about anything that you had to do on the show that might have been out of your comfort zone, or did you feel like this was definitely within your wheelhouse?
I was always apprehensive with my Mo's episode 104 in Extraordinary Neighbor, and kind of telling my actual story in church and what I went through at church, and kind of maneuvering through that, because like I said, I didn't want to be disrespectful to the church, to my family, or to anybody that was, even the people that said anything negative about me at church. I didn't want to offend them in such a way. And I wanted it to be perfect. That's it. I just really wanted it to be perfect and tasteful at the same time.
Yeah, well, I think it was. And it leads me to this. Mo appears very together on the surface. Knows who they are, comfortable, a little sassy, confident, but just as damaged as everybody else, right? Underneath. That's the whole point. Did you enjoy exploring what lies underneath Mo's facade?
Yeah, I confidence is quite literally the biggest insecurity. I think anybody that's so confident is the most insecure, because they're literally putting on this facade that's saying, here I am, world, you can't break me down because I'm broken. I already know I'm broken, so I'm going to make sure that you don't see the crack in the facade. And yeah, it's super nice to just like really dive into some of the insecurities that Mo has, whether it be with a relationship, with a friendship, with these different things that I've already gone through in my life. And to go through them again and to kind of reflect is so cathartic in a way. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. If you had free reign to choose the next song that Mo could sing on season 2, which we hope will happen, on your ultimate episode, what would you choose and why? As an accomplished vocalist, what would you love to tackle and why?
Oh my goodness. There's so many songs. I feel like I have a list, and the questions here, I'm like, what? Maybe like a Whitney, I Will Always Love You, or How Will I Know by Whitney, Oh My God, I Love Him So, Barbara Streisand. Just like some of those, I feel like music today has changed so drastically that I want to go back to, like, way back to where Park and Bark, just standing at a microphone singing, is at the forefront again, especially on the show, and it reintroduced that again, because even though Glee was so long ago, it was so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, times really have changed in pop culture, particularly. I really want to see you sing a Whitney song at some point. I hope that happens. That's another reason why we've got our fingers crossed for season 2, right? So we'll see. Now, I was also thinking, and I've asked this to some of your colleagues from the show, that in this day and age, not only because of how polarized and divided we are in this world, but also because of what's going on in the current global pandemic, this show is the perfect antidote to so much of the misery and sadness of our times. Do you agree?
I do. Music brings so many people together. It doesn't matter what kind of walk of life you tread. If you hear a song, that song will remind you of the time that you heard it. Why, if you like it, if you don't like it, why you have some kind of visceral reaction to music. And even right now, people are listening to music, people are watching television, and they're connecting over something, even though they're so far apart from each other.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to put it. Alex, I'm hoping for a season 2. We want to see more of Mo, and we want to thank you so much for your time today and for a really great season 1.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time and watching it too.
Now, everybody, while you're waiting, go to goldderby.com, make your predictions, click subscribe. We've got lots of contender chats just like this one with Alex.